Hey folks, we'll just go ahead and get started here. I appreciate you folks making it through the rain. I know it's not a great day, but I'm excited to see you here and for our thesis and dissertation workshop. I think we have just a few more people that are coming in now, but after that we should go ahead and get started. I usually just try to get a survey of the crowd. Are you folks all pretty much dissertation students, or do we have thesis students as well? So could our doctoral students raise their hand? And then our thesis students? Okay, so we have a good mix in here today. I'll go over both and the requirements for both the thesis and the dissertation students. They're a little bit different for our doctoral students than the thesis. You have a few more things that you have to turn in. So getting started here, I'm Stacy Wallace. I'm the coordinator of the Thesis and Dissertation Office at UF's Graduate School. We're known as the editorial office. We actually are the office that will review your thesis and dissertation. We'll also sign off on it for the graduate dean and push it forward for publication to the library. So we're the office that you have to clear before graduation. Hopefully you haven't heard anything tough about us. We're really here to help you get through the process. We're here to help polish the work and get you started. So like I said, our office is strictly here to help. Again, my name is Stacy. I'm the coordinator, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process of doing your thesis and dissertation. I brought my partner in crime here from the Application Support Center. His name is Ken Booth. He's going to give you a little bit more information about the technical side of things. I'll tell you about people to know and places to go. I'll give you a little bit of information about some other resources that are available to you around campus. And all of the resources that I bring up today, almost all of their services are free of charge to you, and most folks, it's unfortunate you weren't aware until the end of your process that these folks were even available to you. This is something you can use throughout your entire process, of course, here in graduate school. Again, my office is the Graduate School Editorial Office. We oversee the thesis and dissertation processing. We offer guidance to ensure that the theses meet high UF standards, and they meet the electronic submission requirements required by the UF libraries. We provide checklists, deadlines, and format guidelines addressing the graduate school requirements. I'll let you know, we're going to make this PowerPoint available to all of you, and in the PowerPoint, you'll notice that there are links here. These are links directly to each of the graduation checklists. The links to our deadlines can be found here. And this is a format guideline. I'll let you know, this is about a 45-page document, so it answers virtually any question you might have about formatting your thesis or dissertation. It shows you sample pages of each of the pages that are included in the templates that Ken's office provides to you. It also answers kind of really off-the-wall questions that have come up through the years. Sometimes we have students that are doing creative writing theses. Those are very different, of course, than the traditional thesis or dissertation. Therefore, we have an explanation about how to do those as well. There's just a lot of information in there available to you. So I recommend tonight, fun reading, go home and download that format guidelines and get started on that. Luckily, what's nice about that, too, is when you see it, it kind of takes out some of the mystique of, you know, what is it that I have to turn in, how much things are due and when, how do I format the specific way to meet the guidelines that they're looking for. Because, of course, most of you have probably already published in outside journals, and so you've met a few of the requirements, the publication requirements of those journals. You know it can take a little while to figure out each nuance and how each different ones want them a little bit differently. And, of course, we at UF want it a little bit differently than you're probably used to doing as well. We try to make them consistent across the board. So, of course, you folks are coming from all different disciplines. We may have STEM folks here. We may have folks from liberal arts and sciences. We try to make your dissertations look the same so that they have a clear stamp on them that says they're from UF. Granted, that may be different than you formatted it for journals in the past. You want to still follow the format guidelines set out by the UF Graduate School. Again, we work hand in hand with the Application Support Center. There's a link here to their website. Ken, of course, will tell you much more about them, but they provide you other workshops, more technical workshops than the one you'll get here today. Most of those that he offers are about 2 hours, and they go very deeply into the template and how to format things specifically in that. They also offer one-on-one consulting relating to the format template. So you can come into our lab. It's located 224 of the hub. That's upstairs right above Starbucks in the hub. You can go ahead and set an appointment, which is what I recommend at this point. Since we do have a deadline coming up next week, the lab is beginning to fill up, so the walk-ins traffic is really increased. If you set an appointment, it's really easy to contact them. You just call 392-HELP, H-E-L-P, and they'll set an appointment with you. I believe y'all are still option number 5? Yes. Yes. And our office also provides, outside editor, a list of outside editors and formatters. If you decide you just can't take the guidelines set by our office, you don't want to deal with that at all, and you just want to pay someone else to do that for you, there are paid services available through the Application Support Center, but also through outside editors and formatters. We maintain that list, but I will tell you, those are not folks that work for UF in any way. So if you have any problems with anybody on the list, if you find that their services were not up to the standards that you felt they should be, please contact our office and we'll remove their name from the list of editors. Our office does not examine or critique your content, your scholarship, the research methods, or writing style. This is, of course, the responsibility of you and your chair and your committee. We are just here, again, to help you polish the work, to help it look consistent with other UF dissertations, and to help you get it published through the UF libraries. This is our contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. Our email is gradedit@aa.ufl.edu. It's meant to be grad edit, not graded it. We don't grade anything. We just, again, help you out. Our number is 392-1282, and we're available Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and we're in room 224 of the hub as well. We're actually offset in room 224B. We like to say it's the storage closet off of the hub, off of the Application Support Center. It's a big closet where 3 of us live. And you can find us in there as well. The thesis deadlines and checklists are available here as well as links. Our thesis students, that's the students that are completing for their masters, you do need all of the following by first submission. The degree application should be submitted through ISIS. Notice that I indicated here that this is due to the registrar prior to our deadline. The thesis deadline is not coming up for about another month. However, the degree application deadline actually just passed last Friday. If you missed that degree application deadline for any reason, you cannot get added back on the degree list without a petition through your department, and it's very rare those are supported. So if you're a master's student and you're planning to graduate this semester, I recommend that you go to your department now to find out what you can do about getting added back to the degree list, if at all. So if you're graduating a future semester, remember that I said that because it's important that you go ahead and put your degree application in early in any semester that you think you're going to graduate. The reason we say that, there's no fee to put the degree application in, and very rarely does the registrar accept students added back to the degree list if they miss the degree application deadline. For the thesis students, you have to defend before making submission to our office, which means your oral defense also has to occur before that first submission deadline in your intended term of degree award. We ask for a reference journal article. The reason we ask for this is because everybody comes from different fields across the university. We don't want to tell you you have to use APA or you have to use MLA or you have to use a specific reference style. We want to allow you to follow the reference style that's consistent in your field. So if you use IEEE, then provide us an article where someone's using IEEE as their reference style. We simply need this article so that we can see that you're mirroring the style of the journal that you're following. We'll notice some things that you may not have noticed that, perhaps after a colon, they never capitalize or they always capitalize the first thing. So we'll look out for consistencies there just to make sure you're following it as well. Ken may have some hints on how to handle those as well, because I know a lot of folks use EndNote or RefWorks now. That makes it so much easier putting your reference list together. The final exam form is due to the fact that thesis students have to have defended. The final exam form indicates that you've passed your oral defense, and that must be submitted after the oral defense is passed in order for you to make submission into our system. If your department, for some reason, has not posted the final exam form, you will automatically get an error in our system that you cannot make submission for this term. So definitely go ahead and contact your department if you have defended and make sure that's in GEMS. Go into your GEMS record throughout the semester as things are progressing and make sure that things are getting posted. You can see everything that your department posts as well. And if for some reason they tell you, no, your department, your chair has determined that you need to make changes to the document, they don't want to post the final exam form at this time, advise them that they actually should only be holding your ETD signature page. The ETD signature page indicates that they approve the actual thesis or dissertation for final publication. The final exam form only indicates that you've passed your oral defense and you're at that milestone and ready to move forward. So oftentimes they have the best of intentions, but they're holding the wrong form. And along with the final exam form is the UF publishing agreement. This is kind of a complicated thing that comes up at your defense. It's asking you when you want to release the document for publication. A lot of folks are kind of confused at the defense. They're not sure how they want to move forward. Basically, we recommend that if you're planning to publish in any outside journal or you think that you're planning to submit this work in any way to an outside publication, that you do a UF 2-year embargo. What that means is during the 2-year period after you graduate, the only folks that will have access to your thesis or dissertation are folks that are within the UF system. If you do not want even folks within the UF system to have access to you during that 2-year period, you can do an embargo period, which is called 2-year secret, and then that kind of shadows out the entire record for the next 2 years, allowing you enough time to publish the article. The 2-year secret is almost always intended, though, for folks that are obtaining a patent. So if you're not obtaining a patent, the 2-year embargo seems most appropriate. And then some folks elect to release it immediately, which means that it'll go up within a few months after your publication. And in a case of a master's, a lot of folks do want to go ahead and get that out because they want to allow their publication to move forward, or they're moving forward in their PhD, and they want to allow others in their lab to cite their work. So just keep that in mind. And I would decide on this before I went into my defense, because the defense is just no time to be determining what your publication schedule will be. Now for final submission, that's when the ETD signature page has to be submitted, and that's the document that indicates that your committee is pleased with the thesis and they're ready for it to be published. You cannot submit your final submission to our office if your committee has not approved your thesis. So be sure that that's submitted prior to the final submission deadline. In the dissertation students, those are our doctoral students that are moving forward for the PhD. You'll notice that you have the same requirements, the degree application through ISIS. There's an additional letter that's required of you, which is the transmittal letter. The reason the transmittal letter is required is PhD students are not required to have defended before they make submission to our office. So your oral defense does not have to occur before you're ready to move forward. However, you do have to have this transmittal letter from your chair. This indicates that your document is ready for review by our office. It also indicates that it's not a draft. Therefore, if you are not complete and you have not finished your research, it's really unlikely that your committee is going to be willing to issue a transmittal letter. However, a lot of folks, their research may be outstanding, so there may be some results that are pending. If that's the case, they may feel like you've written enough to move forward with the chapters, but you're going to have to fill in the results sections and parts of that. If they determine that, then they are fully authorized to write your transmittal letter. However, keep in mind that when our office gets the document, it should look fairly complete. So all of the pieces of the template should be filled in. You should have your acknowledgments already done. You need to have your biographical sketch done. You need to have your dedication, all your abstract. All of that information needs to be complete before you make submission to our office. Even in the cases of the chapters that the pending information is due, you still want to write the preliminary framework. So go ahead and have that already in place so that then later at final submission, you can plug everything in. The reason I say that is your submission deadlines pretty much fall. We have one coming up next week. The next one is a month from now. And then final submission is a month from that. So at most, you have about 2 months between your first submission and your final submission. And during that time, you're waiting on our office also to get the document back to you. So it's best if your first submission's in really great shape. You'll also notice that I indicate here that you need the reference journal article as well. And then for final submission, this is when the doctoral students need to have the final exam form submitted, which indicates that they've passed the oral defense, the UF publishing agreement, which is the determining how long you want to embargo it, your ETD signature page, which is the final approval of your thesis and dissertation, or your dissertation in that case, and an additional publishing agreement, which is the UMI ProQuest publishing agreement. This one your department will print out for you and provide to you to give to our office. I'll tell you, depending on what you said on your UF publishing agreement, you'll either get a 2-page document or you'll get an 11-page document. If you say, yes, you want to publish with UMI ProQuest, you'll get the 11-page document. Again, we only still need 2 pages of it, pages 4 and 5, but you'll need those other pages to fill in codes about your specific discipline. If you want a little bit more information about UMI ProQuest before deciding this at your defense, I recommend going to their website and to our website. We have some information about their how to link to them and what their publication options mean. I'll go over some experts here at UF that can help you with that form. Feel free to kind of get that information straightened out before you go into your defense because, again, it's a lot of questions about traditional publishing versus open access publishing and the kind of things that you probably aren't concerned about at your oral defense. The last thing that will come in is, of course, your dissertation document, and then once that's completed, you can complete the survey of earned doctorates. That's an online survey. There's a link to it on our checklist. You can complete that as soon as you're ready for a degree award. It's kind of a long, intense survey. It's going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes, but it's a requirement of all of our doctoral students. You cannot graduate without the survey complete. So I definitely recommend you go ahead and take the time to knock that out as well. The Application Support Center, which Ken's going to talk to you in a little bit about them, they provide help to the students, faculty, and staff for all kinds of use of applications. So they will help you with Office and Adobe. They also are the ones who provide and maintain the templates for the graduate students. You'll see there's a link here to both the MS Word template and the LaTeX template. If you're not familiar with LaTeX, I don't recommend you get familiar with it now. It's very complex. And those of you that are familiar with it, you may not even choose to use it at this point. Feel free to use MS Word as well. My office is very familiar with Word. Ken, I think, is about the only person that's the expert in LaTeX. So you'll be working closely with him if that's the case. They also offer dissertation troubleshooting and one-on-one formatting assistance. You'll see here there's a link to the support services that they offer to you. Here's their contact information. Notice we're right there together. We're in the hub, room 224, which is above Starbucks. They're there Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And you can call the help desk at 392-4357 or HELP and choose option number 5. You can also email their office directly with questions, more technical questions that you have about the thesis and dissertation process. I will let you know the help desk is often open after hours, so after the 5 o'clock time frame. They, however, may or may not have someone that's on staff from the Application Support Center available to you. So even at night, you may want to give a call because they can answer some questions for you about the technical side of the templates. And if not, they'll go ahead and put in a ticket for Ken when he comes in the morning to get back with you. One of the other resources that's really great and a lot of folks are not aware of is the University Writing Studio. This is a free service. It's available to you. While my office is filled with editors, we tend to help you with more technical and more help with the template and the thesis and dissertation process. They can help you with a lot of your writing skills and developing stronger writing skills. Their aim is not to edit or proofread your document, but rather to assist students to become better proofreaders and editors of their own work. So they currently offer individual half-hour sessions with grad student writing tutors to help you with that. They are available They are also offering these online video tutorials, and they've been expanding this quite a bit. You may want to check those. Those are pretty helpful, especially to our students where English is a second language. There's some pretty helpful video tutorials there. They are currently also offering a dissertation and thesis boot camp as well, and that's for folks that just can't commit to the writing and they need to kind of go in a room, commit to someone else that they're going to get those pages done, and then they'll review it and go over those pages pretty intensely for you. I understand they're doing it by discipline currently, the boot camp, so you may just want to give them a call at the 846-1138 to determine what's the best one for you to join. They are also in Tigard Hall now. They've kind of recently moved, and they are also taking evening tutoring at Library West. That sometimes changes hours, so you probably want to double check with them on when they'll be available over there. Our UF Libraries and Legal Information Center, this is a really great resource that's available to students. All of these links here are actual entries from her guide where she has provided not only full entry research theory, but in her publication, so the journal article that she published these in, but then there's also a blog and so many questions from students that come up in relation to all of these. So obviously copyright, that's a big one that's debatable. Open access versus traditional publishing, whether you want to make your work widely available to folks. Fair use, what constitutes fair use and what's plagiarism. What resides in the public domain and what does not. What can I use without proper citation? How should I properly cite all kinds of things? What are my rights as an author here at UF? What about if other folks are plagiarizing my work? How do I go about contacting folks about that? She also, again, offers these guides and counseling services. When I refer to she, I'm referring to Christine Fruin. She's actually an attorney that's on staff here at UF. She's one of our librarians, and she is the person that put together all of those resources for you. Again, she's obviously an attorney, so she has a background in law. She gets very technical with the copyright questions and can direct you much better than our office can. I will tell you, our office is very conservative. We advise you to always just get permission, and then you're covered. She'll tell you the cases where you can argue whether you should get permission or not, but I'll tell you, she's also a little conservative. Here is her link to her email where you can contact her directly. She loves to get questions directly from students. She's also willing to host workshops, so if there's a group of students that really have some specific questions and they'd like to get together, contact Christine and she's happy to coordinate that with you. Again, she also offers a blog here that is linked on this page. The UF Institutional Repository is the IR. It's known as the IR at UF, and it's a digital archive. It allows our students to house their intellectual properties, so allows them to say you used a survey in your document, and in your thesis or dissertation, you want to allow access to that survey, but you don't necessarily need to make it a part of your document. You can host it in the IR, and the IR will provide you a permanent URL or a PURL address that you can then use in any publication from that point on to provide that data to folks. Since it is a PURL, a permanent URL, that will never change. So when you leave UF and you've long since moved on, you can still link directly to the institutional repository at UF, and that address will never change. So in all your future publications, feel free to use that. We definitely recommend what we call a data dump. So say you're in information and computer sciences, and you have hundreds of pages of code. You feel this is absolutely a necessity to make it available to the reader. We feel, as the editors of a thesis and dissertation, we probably don't need to see 100 pages of code to understand what you're trying to get at with your dissertation. However, you and your committee really feel that this is necessary and a part of your work. Go ahead and load it into the IR, make it the permanent URL, and then link to it directly in your document. You'll please everyone. That'll move it out of our office requirements too. So say you have an Excel spreadsheet and you don't necessarily want to convert that to the thesis and dissertation requirements of the one line above the title and one line and no column or separation and all of that. You can load that into the IR. You don't have to follow our format guidelines. You can keep the format of the original survey or the original Excel spreadsheet. and then link to it directly in our documents. You'll notice here that the IR hosts all kinds of things. So I'm recommending it for our purposes and what we use it for, but you can see there are a great deal of things that they are willing to host for you. And frankly, I've never seen them turn down anything else that's not on this list. So they are all about keeping the history. They're a bunch of digital archivists, and they're librarians by nature, so they believe in keeping whatever we can. You'll notice, too, they house the university archives collections, so that's where you can find all those great photos of UF and everything. They're in charge of that. Okay, so we're wrapping up to the end of my session. I'll tell you there are some other helpful writing resources available to you. If you have never visited Purdue Online Writing Lab, please do. It's a wonderful resource. It basically has any questions. I will tell you, as editors in our office, we quite often consult this website. It's just they keep up with the changes in the fields, the changes in publications, the changes in APA style guides, MLA style guides, all of those things. You'll also notice I linked to those here. Folks may not be aware that the MLA style guides are now available online, and to students it's free of charge if you sign as a student. So there's no longer a reason to just be purchasing those books outright, especially if you haven't used them up until this point. You may not want to do it on your final. And then the general APA guidelines also. Some folks are more technical writers, so I recommend this Technical Communication by John Lannon and 10 Ways to Improve Your Technical Writing. These are just really easy resources to read through that can help you a great deal. And if you do have to do an annotated bibliography, I'm very sorry. But if that is the case, there are some resources available for you here as well. Again, my name is Stacy Wallace. I'm the coordinator of the editorial office, the office that's here to help you get your thesis and dissertation through publication. I brought our checklist. They're separated here by master's and doctoral, so just be sure to get the proper checklist. And I also brought our business cards there. It has our contact information and how you can reach us as well. On the back of each of the checklists are the deadlines for our office for all of the upcoming semesters. I will hand it over to my partner in crime of the Application Support Center. His name is Ken Booth. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Well, like Stacy said, we are the technical end of the support. It does not matter what our opinion of your document is. As long as they like it, they're the ones that matter. We are part of the help desk, not part of the graduate school. We will help you in any way we can, but again, our opinion doesn't really make any particular difference. We do have a good idea of what the editors are looking for, and we have done literally thousands of reviews and have a pretty good idea of what they're looking for. But again, they're the ones that really count. Our website is part of the UF Computing Help Desk website. If you go to helpdesk.ufl.edu, you'll find a link to the Application Support Center. The Application Support Center itself is asc.helpdesk.ufl.edu, and if you click on Technical Support and then MS Word and LaTeX templates, you'll get a link to the templates. We have several templates available. There's a paragraph describing each one, and each has a certain nuance to it, but in general, you want the MS Word template is the most probable one. If you're using LaTeX, you would obviously use the LaTeX template. The template itself is a thesis or dissertation format. It is in the format that the editors want. So it alone is a pretty good guide as to what you're shooting for, just looking at the document. In addition, it's a good offline resource, as it is right then. There's a lot of information in it that describes what you need to do and how you need to do it. So the first thing you do when you download the template, save it as it is without doing any changes, then save it again in the name of the working file that you want to use. That way you'll always have a copy of the template off to the side that you can access at any time, and then you'll have the document that you want to use. When you're working in the template, we recommend that you use the show hide set to show. So all the paragraph marks, all the formatting marks are going to be visible. That will help you see what's on the page and how to deal with it. The template works on Microsoft Word styles. If you've never used Microsoft Word styles, you're in for a treat. They can save a tremendous amount of time just by applying a lot of formatting criteria with just a click of a mouse. But we've made about 20 custom styles in the template or in the document, and if you just go in and paste your text over our text and replace it, you're going to remove all of our custom styles. The styles have to be present in the document for you to be able to access them. So, leave the template text in the document as you paste your text in front of our text. That's generally the best way to do it. Start off with the template text after your text, and then you will go in and apply the styles. The show hide on Microsoft Word is shown by the little paragraph symbol, and that will cause the paragraph symbols and a bunch of hidden text to show up. On the first paragraph of the abstract page, you'll see this TC abstract. You turn off the show hide and it'll disappear. This is what brings the abstract into the table of contents. It's supposed to be there. You want it to be there. Make sure you don't delete that accidentally. You'd be amazed how many people see that and go, delete. The Styles palette, if you click on the Home tab, there's a Styles group, and at the bottom right-hand corner of the Styles group is a little tiny arrow. I don't think Microsoft could have made it more insignificant looking if they tried. But if you click on that, a palette will open up, and you can drag that off to one side or the other of your screen, and it'll dock. And that'll be real nice and useful to you. But styles are what makes the whole process go. Now, we have about 20 different styles. There's a bunch of different things you can do in a document. 6 are vital. Those are the ones that count. Chapter title, first, second, and third level subheadings will create your table of contents. The caption figure style will create your list of figures, and the caption table style will create your list of tables. If you apply those 6 styles to your document, a lot of your work is going to be done for you. The standard footnote tool for Microsoft Word works wonderful. That is the perfect way to do your footnotes if you're using footnotes. Footnotes is becoming a lost art. But if you do use footnotes, footnote numbers must restart each chapter, and they should be in 10-point text, the same style as your body text. Endnotes, on the other hand, should all be at the end of each chapter. Now, Stacy talked about using the program EndNote or RefWorks as your reference management software. And we highly recommend that you do that. There's a lot of information. These programs are provided free of charge by the UF libraries. The libraries have a wonderful information section on those programs and how to use those programs. But one thing I want to caution you about, every semester there's always some bright graduate student that figures out that the EndNote function in Microsoft Word is very close to the reference system they're using. And they will try to use that EndNote function to create their reference list. Please don't do that. It will cause all kinds of problems. You cannot put anything after that reference list that's put at the end of your document. The EndNotes will be the last thing in your document, and the bio sketch has to be the last thing according to the editorial office. So you're going to have to delete all of those EndNotes, your reference list, and when you do that, all of your citations will disappear in the body of your document. So while you will be able to recreate the list of references, all your citation points are going to have to be reinserted. Again, don't do this. It happens very rarely, but for the one person each semester, if I can reach you now, I can save your life. It is not a substitute for a reference list. Tables are another thing that always cause a problem. Everybody wants to put a border around every cell in a table. Don't do that. The editors don't like it. The graduate council doesn't like it. They like very simple and plain tables. One line across the top, one line across the bottom, one line underneath the column headings, no vertical borders whatsoever. And when we say no vertical borders, we mean no vertical borders. What part of no? No. The easiest way to make a table is to probably use Excel and put your information in an Excel table. Word's table tool works very well as well. But when you copy and paste from Excel, just literally copy and paste. It's nothing special. Don't use as a meta file. Don't link to the data in your Excel spreadsheet. Just paste the table, and it will become an editable table that we can deal with in Word, regardless of how many borders you've got, how the text is set up. It will be an editable, modifiable table, and life will be good. This is what a table should look like, approximately. I know it's boring. The Graduate Council likes boring. Shouldn't be any bold. The table captions at the top of the table. Shouldn't be any shading in the cells. I'll give you a hint. If you want to put a bunch of shading and colored text in your tables, call them figures. Huh? Figures are okay. Tables, no. Hey, it's a way around the process. Anybody here know the difference between a bitmap and a JPEG? Anybody really care about the difference between a bitmap and all right. Bitmaps are large and cumbersome files as a general rule. JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs are all compressed file formats. I did an experiment and took a JPEG and saved it as a bitmap. It went from 600 kilobytes to 9.2 megabytes. I didn't have any more information in the bitmap. It just got stored that inefficiently. Now, if you've got one picture, big deal. But if you've got 10 pictures, you're talking about 90 megabytes versus 6 megabytes. If you have 100 pictures, now your computer is really starting to slow down. So do be aware of what the image file format is. There are different strengths and weaknesses to each of these formats. The JPEGs are good for pictures. The GIFs are good for line drawings. The PNGs are very good when there's text and images that need to go together. Try to avoid using the drawing tools that are in Word. While they can make your life real easy if you want to do a quick little doodle or whatever in Word, if you're doing a complex timeline or something, you're going to have a bunch of little pieces on a Word screen that you're almost never going to be able to select all and move from one page to another, and you're almost going to have to move from one page to another at some time in the process. If you need to put text and images together on the same page, use something that was made to do that. PowerPoint is a great program for that. Illustrator, Photoshop, all of these things that are available in the labs that cost an arm and a leg to use, but you can use for free if you have them available. And they are available in the labs. But PowerPoint in particular is great at mixing text and images, and you can then save each individual slide as a particular file type. You can save it as a JPEG, you can save it as a GIF, you can save it as a PNG, and then later insert it into your document and be able to manage it that way. It's a whole lot better. Speaking of inserting into your document, a lot of people, for some reason, like to use text wrapping. I understand that you want to try to float your label next to your image, or you've got a note that you want to add to your image and you want to float it in front of the picture. If you've got to use it, okay, go ahead and use it, but try to avoid text wrapping whenever possible. Try to use inline with text, because if you do use text wrapping, chances are your figure and or table caption is going to float in and around your image or table, and you don't want that. Your table caption has to go at the top of the table, has to stay at the top of the table. Your figure caption has to be at the foot of the figure and has to stay at the foot of the figure. You don't want it wrapping to the side. You don't want it wrapping behind. So again, try to avoid using text wrapping and place in line with text. Once you've placed an image in line with text, that is the default for the next placement until you change it. So do it once, and it'll be your friend for a long time. There are a lot of requirements for tables, almost no requirements for figures. Hint, hint. If you want to put a rectangular array of data on a page with a bunch of colors and stuff, call it a figure. The bibliography. As Stacy said, you are allowed to use any peer-reviewed journal in your field. That gives you a lot of options. It also means you don't have to learn something just for your thesis or dissertation. However, when you choose that journal article to emulate, you need to emulate it. You need to follow that particular style. Now, when they say follow that particular style, there's a few things about it that they're not talking about. A lot of reference articles or a lot of journal articles double-space their references. your references should all be single-spaced with a space between each reference. What they're talking about following the format is it last name first initial or last name first name? Is the title of the article given in italics? Is it in title case or sentence case? Is the date given in brackets or parentheses? Is the volume bold? Is it is the punctuation between the volume and the page number a semicolon or a colon? Those are the little nitpicky details that they're looking for in the format of the references. But references, all of the references, should be single space with a space between each of the references. Again, EndNote and RefWorks are available free of charge to all students, faculty, and staff at the University of Florida. If you use reference citation as part of your daily routine, I can't tell you how much more valuable a service that is. It's tremendous. But, like anything else, garbage in, garbage out. You need to make sure you know how to use those services before you just dash it off. And references are probably one of the main reasons documents have a problem with the editorial office at this particular point in time. Occasionally, you get an image that's wider than 6.5 inches, which is the maximum width on a standard portrait text page. So if you've got to go wider, you can turn a page landscape. To landscape a page, you must have a section break at the end of the portrait page and a section break at the end of the landscape page. Then you click somewhere in the middle and choose Orientation Landscape, and it'll turn the page sideways. One of the happiest days in my life was the day that the editorial office, actually the Graduate Editorial Council, figured out that these are now electronic documents, and most of the time they're read on a computer screen, and that the page number can now stay at the middle of a bottom of a landscape page instead of being in the upper left-hand corner turned sideways, as it would need to be for a published document that was actually printed out to keep the page number oriented properly. I even gave it its own slide because it was such a momentous day. But that's I'm the one that's impressed by that, not y'all. You don't. Equations. For some reason, even an English major comes up with an equation in a thesis or dissertation. And I know how much English majors hate mathematics because my wife is one. So anyway, either one standard paragraph indent or centered on the page. Be consistent. Do all of your equations the same way. The equations should be labeled. They are labeled by parentheses, chapter number, hyphen, equation number, close parentheses. That label should be on the right-hand margin of the page. Now, particularly for those of you that use LaTeX, we're not going to get into the debate as to whether Microsoft's equation editor is worth a hoot or not. Suffice it to say that it can do any equation you need somehow, eventually, some way. I'm not saying it's easy to do it, and I'm certainly not going to go into how to do it now. But you can get an equation to work out of Microsoft Equation Maker. Putting it into your document is another story. There are essentially two basic concepts of a display and inline equation. If you need to use a display equation, but you need to put it in line, there's a problem. Word doesn't like to do that. There's also a solution. Make a one-line table with two cells. One cell is for your equation label. The other is for the equation. You can put your display equation inside the left-hand cell and either center it or left align that. Put your label in the right-hand cell and right align that. And don't put any borders around it, and that will give you an equation with the label in the proper location that the editorial office will appreciate. See, we can solve problems. The table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables. As I said, these are created in the template through the use of the word styles that we've created. If you literally go through and apply the styles, then go back to the table of contents, you right-click and choose Update Field, all of your first, second, and third level subheadings and chapter titles will come into your table of contents with the correct indentation, the leading periods before the page number, and the correct page number. Magically. The first time I saw that, my jaw dropped and hit the ground. It was astonishing. Now, that being said, this also works for the table of, or list of figures and list of tables, but on all three of these tables, there are a few little minute changes that need to be done in order to satisfy the actual requirements. We can't get it to come up exactly the right way on both the page and in the tables. So it's easier to fix the tables than it is to go through the document and fix every page in the document that has one of these items on it. So we're going to fix the table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables. We have tutorials that go through in excruciating detail every little detail of where you click the mouse, hit return, type the word chapter in all caps, click in front of the first chapter title, type 1 followed by a tab. All of this is detailed in our tutorials online, but the manual changes that you need to make to the table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables is there, and it is detailed. And if you make those, the first thing the editorial office is going to do is look at your table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables. And they're going to say, this person didn't pay attention to detail. They did not make the little bit of manual changes that needs to be made. And there's probably a good chance at that particular point in time, they're not going to go on and look at 200 more pages of inattention to detail. You want them to look at your inattention to detail. So at least get the table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables correct. It takes a few minutes. Generally, if you go through the document and apply the styles, again, all of the formatting, or at least the vast majority of the formatting criteria for all of these pieces of text are in the styles. As you click and apply a style, you're going to change the format of your document. Once you've done that, if you go back and update the table of contents, list of figures, and list of tables, most of the problems you're going to have are spacing issues. The editors can handle a few spacing issues. So do be aware of those facts. Occasionally somebody will apply a figure caption style to a figure. Picture shows up in the list of figures. Well, if it shows up, the wrong style is applied. If something shows up in any of these tables that shouldn't be there, a wrong style is applied. If something shows up that should be there, or something should be there that isn't, the style is not applied. And we're almost done. Like I say, this is all, the details are all in our website tutorials. You can follow that. This is the lightning capital of the world. Save early and often and in multiple locations. Send yourself an email copy of your document every time you work more than a couple of hours. You cannot imagine how many horror stories we have heard about people losing documents just as the chances of lightning striking your computer go up exponentially as your deadline approaches. That's one of my truisms. Anyway, if there are any questions, I know we only have a few more minutes. I'm sorry to have been so long-winded, but yes, sir. Should figures be metafiles? I can't say never. In fact, a figure as a metafile is not that big a deal. It's tables that shouldn't be metafiles. Yes, ma'am.
We are here to help you polish it, so it should be fairly complete. It should not be in the draft format. You should have downloaded it into the template. You should have all of the required sections of the template completed. It does not have to be perfect. We're not looking at it also for so much as editorial things, but making sure you're fitting into the styles of the template and all of that. I can tell you we do reject a number of documents at first submission. Almost always, I would say 99.9% of the documents that are rejected are folks that didn't come to a workshop like this. They didn't work with the Application Support Center. They never heard of the lab or the template, those kind of things. Rarely, if you have downloaded the template, you've worked with Kim's office to try to get it into a good format, you've gone through and inserted those few things that he told you about, the table of contents, the list of figures, list of tables, we are going to go ahead and look at it at that point for first submission, and you'll pass. Even in the case where we say you didn't pass first submission, it's rare that we don't then give you, at least if it's the deadline, we may only give you a few hours because we have to report to graduate records. But we will always give you the option of resubmitting by like that next business day in order to still make that deadline. Right, so if you submit if you want to know what you get back after first submission from the editorial office, we review the document, we go through page by page, we will indicate the page number and then the issue. We also have, we use an internal review comment template that has standard guidelines, and so as the girls see that, which I have only editors that are ladies, so as the ladies see that you have a problem in your document, they will insert the rule that applies to the editorial office that is also listed in that guide that I talked about, the guide for theses and dissertations, and they will tell you specifically what changes need to be made. Quite often, they will then indicate, make those changes throughout. So if they may only indicate on the first page of what the problem is, and then say make the changes through the rest of the document. I would expect your review comments. It's funny, I think it varies on the editor that you get. My review comments are always anywhere from 10 to 12 pages. I'm very thorough at first submission, while at final submission, I'm a lot easier because I put all the effort in up front. So if you make all of my changes up front, it's very likely that when you make your final submission, I don't find any new things. Some of our editors may give you a document, a review document that's only about 3 to 5 pages, but then understand that at final submission, they may find other things that they missed in that first submission. There's actually 2 full-time editors. I'm the coordinator of the office, so I actually shouldn't necessarily be reviewing the theses and dissertations, but I do help out in the deadline time. The reason being is we get over about 600 documents each semester to review. And we have a few weeks to review those in. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Oh, the LaTeX template? There is absolutely no difference in the actual format of the document itself, meaning that the output will be exactly the same. There are a few things that have changed. The user information in the old template was a separate file that was inputted into the main file. It is now, that user information is now part of the main file. There is a tricky little bit of business if you have one appendix as opposed to two or more appendices that's handled a little bit easier and better in the main file. There's a little bit better organization of images and chapters and documents in general, whereas in the old version, all of those files kind of needed to be at the same level and created a really messy folder. And I've simplified that and put all the images into an images folder, all the chapters into a chapters folder, all the appendices into an appendix folder. If you're using the old file and it's working for you, I don't see any reason to change. There certainly is no formatting improvement that's going to be made. If you're having some problems, organization-wise, you might find that it is a better organized document. Yes?
I heard that there are two formats of connectivity right now. One is paper format and another one is traditional format, which is monograph. So is it a templates available is which one? The paper format or the traditional?
When you say, he's asking about the difference between the paper format and the traditional format, what do you mean? Do you mean the publications where you have articles as the paper?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so quite often we see a style of the theses and dissertations that are coming across our desk. We accept either one, the traditional style, or what is now known as a 3-article publication. Sometimes it's even less than 3 articles. What that means is you have an introduction chapter, article 1 of, so you previously may have published an article, that can become chapter 1 of your document, your thesis or dissertation. However, it must follow the guidelines of the editorial office. So if you have chapter 2 as yet another journal article, it should not be in the format of that other journal. It should be in the format of the editorial office. And then each of these pages that are another chapter, on the top of that chapter, we ask for an unnumbered footnote indicating that it's been previously published and the outside journal information. Include the full information, so not just the citation from your reference list. And of course, if you are the copyright holder, you still want to indicate that it's reprinted with your permission. If you are not the copyright holder, you need to obtain permission from either the journal that holds the copyright or your other copyright holder before you use it. You must also have a conclusion chapter that brings it all together at the end. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. No, so the question was if you use that format, does the article have to be accepted? And no, quite often it will already be submitted to an outside journal or even multiple journals. Just indicate as much as you can about which journal it's been submitted to. You do not have to go back later and update your publication if it's been published after your degree is awarded. If it's published before your degree is awarded or before our final clearance deadline, be sure to update it. we recommend that you find one that does. You can, I mean, quite often we've had a student bring us a second article and say, like, look, this one addresses blogs, but I'm following traditional MLA for everything else. Really, our recommendation is find, specifically kind of your field that you're searching in, find a peer-reviewed journal. Most likely, they will have also addressed that and use that style. If you're using a traditional style like MLA or APA, you don't have to find a journal article with that style. You can indicate to us that you just save it as a Word document and that I am following MLA or APA style. We're very familiar with those, of course, and they address the how to do blogs. Chicago is one, yes, we're familiar with it. Thank you. Yes. Right. Right. That's true. So her question is, she's actually a MAURP, and she's asking they can do a thesis or a project in lieu of a thesis, and kind of wants to know what the difference is. I know that the project in lieu of thesis has kind of its own style that you may follow. That's up to your actual department. If you do the thesis through our office, it has to follow that traditional thesis style. I would not tell you any more work though than doing the project. I mean, it's just following our style. And what's nice about it is if you do the thesis and you go into education or you tend to teach in your field, that can help you yourself. So we recommend, of course, always